At the end of the day, it's another lap. Ooh. So stop calling, stop texting, I'm not sure where I'm at, Finding what's been hogging my mind ain't simple.
Hey everyone, it's Fionn. Welcome back to my channel, Kristni Kristnall Eva channel. I hope you're all well. I have what I hope is going to be a fun video today. I had this idea a few months back to read different books from the same genre but published decades apart. So I went through all my physical TBR and compiled a list of the dates they were published, and it turns out I had 3 romance books that were published in 2002, 2012 and 2022. So what I'm going to do is read all of those, kind of compare them and see how the genres changed throughout the years. Obviously I know one single book doesn't reflect the whole genre in one particular year, but it's just a bit of fun. So the first one I've actually started already and I'm 145 pages in, and it's Angels by Marian Keyes, which I thought was a romance, but now that I'm this far through I'm not actually sure it is. I think it might be more of a kind of general women's fiction, but I don't know what's going to happen. Mixed thoughts on this. The first chapter I actually really liked and it made me laugh, which I wasn't expecting. I didn't think it was going to be my kind of humour because I felt like it was going to be kind of mumsy, live, laugh, love vibes. And it kind of is, but it just came across really well to me, the first chapter. The humour just worked for me. As we've moved through, that is less the case. It's definitely shown its age with the humour. So there are quite a lot of jokes about eating disorders, saying how lucky people with anorexia are, and like our main character hasn't been lucky enough to fall victim to anorexia, aka she's not thin, and those jokes are really not hitting for me. But I guess at the time they would have been, it's never been right to make jokes about those things, but at the time it would have been more readily accepted. Oh, so yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, no, I know how I feel about it. I don't like it, but I think it is just a product of its time. Same with homophobia. It's not. She's not saying she has a problem with meeting another character who's a lesbian, but it's a really big deal for her, and she's saying like, oh, she was stood really close to me and I wanted to step back but I couldn't because she was a leser. Which didn't like that choice of word, but basically she was saying if it was anyone else I would have stepped back, but with her I didn't feel I could because she might think it was because she was lesbian and I didn't want her to think that. So although our main character is not homophobic per se, she's definitely not super comfortable with the idea. It's a very new thing for her, and there's just little things like that. I have considered DNF in it, not because I'm actively not enjoying it, but I'm not actively enjoying it. And I'm starting to think like, is there any point dedicating however many hours on this book? Like I've still got way over 6 hours left to read of this book. Is it worth it when I know there are so many more books out there that I'm going to enjoy so much more? I don't know. I am going to read it a little bit more, but I can't decide. I can't decide how liberal I want to be with my DNFs this year, and yeah, I just don't know. So we'll see where we go, but that's where I'm at for now.
Where am I now? If I look, I can find it out. If I step back from the mirror, will I see it clearer? Where am
I have no idea if you can see me. I am about to start Me Before You, and I'm really excited about this one because I think I've read it, or at least half read it before, based on the spine. I don't recall reading it, but I have watched the film a number of times and always loathed it. Bearing in mind that was the last time was probably like 10 years ago. Maybe not that many. I'm excited. So this is the 2012 pick. Quite a tragic romance, if memory serves, but I'm looking forward to this one, and I hope it lives up to the love I have for it in my mind from when I was a teenager. Yay!
And if it ever happens and it was supposed to be that way. And if it happens and it was supposed to be that way. And if it happens and it was supposed to be that way.
It's starting to get me in my feels. The only weird thing is he just said to her, you make an awful cup of tea, and she went, you're just used to drinking lesbian tea. And I do not understand what that is supposed to mean. I hope they don't start getting weird about lesbians like the last book, but I'm really enjoying this. I did find the very beginning a little bit not tricky to read, but Louisa, the main character, is obviously... Oh wait, have I spoken about this book at all? Basically, our main characters are Louisa and Will, and Louisa has, I guess, quite a limited experience of the world. She's grown up in this village or town, and her family never had a lot of money, so she's not been many places, and she's been working in the same cafe for 6 years. It's the only real job she's had, and she absolutely loves that job, but the owner has to close the cafe at very short notice, and so she goes to work one day and then gets told an hour before closing time, sorry, but this was your last day. And then she's in a desperate panic to find work because she needs the money and her family need the money, and there are not many jobs that she really wants or feels she's experienced for. She just loved working at the Buttered Bun Cafe. She tries a couple of things, factories and fast food, and none of them work out for her, and so in a bit of desperation she goes for this personal carer job, and the man she's caring for is Will, who's a quadriplegic, so he's in a wheelchair and he's paralysed from the chest down basically. The only real movement he has is in his face and a little bit in his hands, and that's basically it. Well, no, that is it. He has been this way since he was in an accident 2 years ago, and before that he was very, very active. He loved skiing, he was a big lawman and like a thrill seeker. He comes from a very different family with a lot of money, so they've got two very different life experiences, but it's ended up with Louisa looking after him and being his personal assistant basically, and we're just watching that develop. But what I was saying is that in the beginning, like, she didn't really want that job. She was really nervous about looking after and supporting a disabled man because she doesn't know any disabled people. And she was having conversations with her family about it, and they were making a few jokes and comments that didn't quite sit right, but I think that was done on purpose to show the development and show that them finding out that their misconceptions were misconceptions basically about disabled people and their lives. So although I didn't love that, I think it was like an intentional part of the story to show that, yeah, this is what a lot of people think, but it's not the truth. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm on page 126, so I've still got quite a way to go, but I'm really enjoying it. And I'm really excited to keep going. And I've just seen, I've got a few pages left to the end of this chapter, but the next chapter is from, just read a spoiler, which I knew was coming from watching and reading this previously, but not for a really long time. Oh, that's sad. Yeah, but the next chapter is from Will's mum's perspective, so I think that's going to be a really interesting mix and a nice perspective. So I'm going to keep going, and I will check in when I'm a bit further through.
And if it happens and it was supposed to be.
It's Friday night, I've washed my hair, I've had a pizza, I've lit a candle, and now I'm about to sit with a cup of tea and finish this book, and I think it's going to hurt. I've loved it, I've really enjoyed it, but I'm nervous a little bit. Not nervous, but a little bit apprehensive about how it's going to end, because I think it's going to make me really sad. But I'm excited as well.
And if it happens and it was supposed to be that way. And if it happens and it was supposed to be that way. So guess what? I'm not getting no younger and the answer ain't coming. It ain't
goodness. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a book. I knew I was gonna enjoy it, but I didn't know. Ow. I mean, I thought I was gonna feel a lot of things, but man, I felt them. Oh my goodness. It's like an hour since I finished Me Before You, and I knew the rating as soon as I finished. I mean, I knew the rating before I finished. It was a 5-star. It had to be. It was just sensational, and man, I just loved it. I think sometimes I get a little bit in my head about my star ratings because I am a notoriously low rater, I guess. I don't tend to give out 5-star ratings, but the thing is, and then I feel like I'm being too harsh when I read a book that for the most part I love, but I'm like, oh, it just didn't give me the feeling, or there were too many things I didn't like. And then I read a book like Me Before You, and there were a couple of things that I didn't love about it, but the feeling was just there. Overall, I just devoured it, and I think that's the difference. And people say 5 stars is a feeling, and it is. That it is for me. I mean, the only things I didn't like about it were that they kept referring to him as a man, like the men were all men and the women were all girls. They always said a man and a girl, which just makes me feel icky. I don't like it, and it happens all the time in books and other media and just people talking in real life, but I don't like that. Oh, what was the other thing? I feel like there was something else, but now I can't actually remember, and I'm sure that's something I read this evening, so it can't have been that bad. And I think I mentioned in a previous clip about the discussions of and the comments about disabled people and their lives at the very beginning of the book, which I didn't love reading, but I think was done on purpose and with love. And the way the book was written just made me think that Jojo Moyes has loved or deeply cared for a disabled person, because she just got it. She just got it, and it definitely hit home for me. It felt relatable in some ways. Oh, it was just so good. It was just so good. I will never, well, that's a ridiculous thing to say. I have never related to Will, and I hope I will never relate to Will and the life he's living, but it was just fantastic and heartbreaking and wonderful and brilliant, and I loved it, and I cannot wait to watch the film again. I know I love the film, so I did have pretty high hopes for the book, but that also made me wonder if it wasn't going to be as good as I remembered, but it was better. I just loved it. But with all that said, I am now going to move on to the third and final book of this vlog, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Oh, also, I did want to say that I know Me Before You is not a representation of romance books in 2012. Like, I'm sure that's very much a one-off. Like, how often do you read a fiction book about disabled people? Never mind condensing it into 1 year. But I don't care because I loved it. And like I was saying, I'm now moving on to Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This was published in 2022. I've read one Emily Henry before. I read Beach Read 4 years ago now, and I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember anything about it. It definitely didn't stand out. But I'm looking forward to this, and I will update you in due course.
Every minute slipping by, even when I close my
I am about 75 pages in, and so far I'm finding it okay. I think the humour is just not quite me. Like, to me it feels like it's trying too hard to be funny, but I don't think it is. I just think it's not hitting with me the way it's meant to. And there have been a lot of references to celebrities, books, films that I just don't understand, which is kind of an obstacle to full enjoyment, because like I'm an outsider to the jokes that are happening and the conversation, and it, like, you know, I can tell they're references, but I don't know what for. So, but it's fine. I'm going to continue reading. I haven't read anything yet today, so I'm looking forward to just having a bit of time reading. That's what I'm going to do now, and I will update you when I have more thoughts.
eyes. Ruthless, I know. You might even wonder why I go MIA sometimes. I can't deny.
Watch me just say I didn't get the humour, and now I'm like giggling at it.
A couple months till you knocked on my door. Sat by the sea while the waves fell asleep. Know what I should have let go. Thought I lost my way, but now I am sure. If I spend all my days searching for gold, I would be running out of time to see.
Hey guys, so it's been a couple of days since I finished Book Lovers, which means this reading vlog is over, and my thoughts on this remained the same throughout, which was just that I thought it was okay, and I don't really want to say any more on it than that, other than I think I'm giving it 3 stars. So I think it's pretty clear that I have a favourite from this video. I had a DNF, a 3-star and a 5-star in the middle, which is really exciting. I'm definitely not going to say that clearly then 2012 is my favourite year for romance books. I definitely don't think any one of these reflects the genre as a whole from the year they were published, but I do think that particularly in these outer two, you can tell the year more. So for example, this one, like I mentioned before, the humour is just so outdated, and some of the things in this book just would not fly now. Like, if someone tried to publish this book now, I really don't think it would get through. I would maybe pick up some of Marian Keyes' newer works to see if her writing has kind of evolved with the times, but I'm definitely not going to be in a big rush to do that. And same with Book Lovers. I think I mentioned this before, but there were a lot of references to like modern and current pop culture, which obviously wouldn't have made sense a decade or so previous, but I do think that means there's going to come a time where this isn't really relevant anymore, and I think that will take a long time, but I do think that'll happen and people will kind of stop getting it and getting the humour. I didn't find that so much in this book, but that could just be because I enjoyed it more on a whole, so it felt more timeless to me than it actually was. One thing I will say is, if these books are reflective of this, which I think they might be, is how much the covers have improved in time. This cover is terrible. This cover is very average, and this cover is really nice. And I definitely think we've been seeing more bright colours and cartoonish covers in recent years, so I do think this is a good reflection of that. I have read one of the Emily Henry book before. I've read Beach Read a few years back, and I seem to remember enjoying that a bit more than I enjoyed this. So as I still have that, I have been thinking about maybe doing a reread. Maybe it's just that this book isn't for me, rather than Emily Henry as an author isn't for me. And then if I enjoy that, maybe I'll try some for other books. But if I don't enjoy that one that much either, then maybe Emily Henry's just not for me, which is absolutely fine. I feel like, did I have anything more to say than that? I don't think so. So all of that said brings us to the end of this vlog. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.